Two of my teachers at the I Writers Workshop, Vance Bergeli and his former student, John Irving, pretty much only work in the long form. Another of my teachers there, John Cheever, worked in both forms, but of course was much more proficient as a short story writer. And then also at that time, I became friendly with Ray Carver, who only wrote short stories. So it's, you choose your own field. In my case, I feel fortunate in being able to do both and being equally dedicated to both. And in short, I will write a novel, and instead of having this dead period of parturition after the novel is done, I turn to stories. And typically I'll write 5, 6, 7, 8 stories in a given period. Then it's time for another novel because the stories peter out. I write the novel, then I complete this book of stories. And it works in a kind of rhythm for me so that if I look back, I didn't plan it this way. If I look back though, I will write a longer historical novel usually. Half a book of stories, a contemporary novel, the other half a book of stories, publish that, and then repeat the cycle, which continues to this day. Yeah, I don't know anything at all with any story or novel, no matter how seamless it may seem to you once you read it. It's an organic process. It evolves day by day, line by line. I just follow it. As far as research, I do need to sometimes see things. Most of my research comes from reading and taking notes as if I were going to write a term paper. But just as when you write a term paper, you lose those notes. And you don't really even refer to them anymore. But the very fact of taking them, I think, opens up some part of your unconscious to the possibility of how it could be organized, whether that's to give a paper or to write a fiction. I don't want to know the ending. I want to find out. I mean, this is why it's so exciting to me and why I only write fiction. I don't want to be an essayist. I don't want to give speeches. I don't want to be a man of letters. I'm not running for office. I just want to do this because you never know. I never know whether it will come together or not, or how it will come together. So the research is a way of organizing the material, but not in the way of an outline, sort of in the way of opening you up to possibilities. Now, obviously, if I'm writing about a specific place, I need to go see it, but not in the way of a journalist. I don't interview the mayor or anybody associated with any figures I may be writing about. I just want to see the place and get a feeling for it, do my research, and invent a story. So that, for instance, with The Harder They Come. Yes, of course, I went to Fort Bragg on numerous occasions. I hiked in the woods where my character Adam had been. I took the skunk train a couple of times. I did all those things. Went to the museums and so on. But I didn't interview the police chief or anything like this. That's beyond the scope of what I want to do. I want to have the story in all its immediacy be newly generated through me. So, for instance, with Drop City, which is set in Alaska, I spent a month in Alaska during the summer solstice. I used the powers of my imagination for the winter solstice. I didn't know, I knew that it was going to be set around Fairbanks. And so I spent a lot of time there. But I really didn't know. And some of the best stuff on the Kobuk River, north of the Arctic Circle, really only was sort of just slightly integrated into the book. It really wasn't germane to where the story went at that point. So I don't want to know, and I don't want to be rigidly handcuffed into some kind of structure that's artificially imposed. The structure has to come organically, and that comes by moving in sequence. I'm not giving advice because everybody is different, but for me, I would never consider writing out of sequence, no matter how much I wanted to write the kitchen scene, or the death scene, or the man being eaten by a hyena scene. It has to come in its time, line by line, word by word, you have to get there. That's how I work. So it's magic, it's magic. That is the beauty of artistic creation. It's like my hero, my first hero whom I ever knew was great art when I was 13 years old is John Coltrane. He is the master of improvisation. He doesn't know exactly what that song will be or where it's going to end, but he will be stimulated by his bass player and his drummer and his pianist, and maybe he'll be covering a tune, but beyond that, all the notes are going to originate at that moment. It's spontaneity, it's a great thing. That's what I love, and that's what I hope to do. And in fact, it's the only way I know how to work.